You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
And everybody, this is Ken Vellante with Something Rather Than Nothing. And goodness, Zora von Pavonine and I are already talking about cats. And the cat has appeared. We will have some video of this. We wanted to go in with a hot start here. Zora, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. God, it's so great to be here. I'm reflecting on the last time we met, which I think was in like my favorite part of the Rose Garden. I think we were in the little Shakespeare nook, and we were chatting, and it was just so warm and sunny. And I think it was also COVID times. So were we sitting 6 feet apart from each other? I don't remember.
we were. It was in a strange time and or like a bubble, being outside, but yeah, still. You had a kick-ass jacket that you had made, and so my inkling was to touch, but I don't think that's how it worked back then. I think it was hey, good jacket, like the Fonz. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. I love that jacket so much. It starts conversations everywhere I go. This is what we do. I hold her like this, and she gets her little toe beans going. But yeah, I love that jacket. It starts conversations everywhere I go. And I had this really interesting experience a few years back where I got sort of put through a series of questions and to discover my life purpose. And it was really awesome because I think that, when we think about what a life purpose is, we maybe have some really existential and grandiose ideas about what that can mean. And I discovered just really because the words came flying out of my mouth, and then I was that awesome tingle of divine sensation that comes over you when you say something that you just know is the truth.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel your whole system go, right? And I said out loud, my life purpose is to sparkle. And it was anybody who knows me would be yeah, obviously. But in that moment, I was oh God, it's not to do all of these other things that are maybe going to require me to toil or have dedication beyond desire, right? To just be a workhorse for doing some vision or some artistic output that eventually, right, requires more dedication than desire, which is probably anything we engage with at some point, right? It can't always be for fun. But when I said that, I was oh my God, everything is just so simple now, because my life purpose is to sparkle, and that's so fucking easy. And I do that every day. And I feel I also bring a lot of sparkle to other people's lives through my various adventures. And I was wow, it just was the most awesome settling. And so I love that you bring up the jacket, because the jacket sparkles, right? And so literally and physically and metaphorically, I'm here to sparkle, and I love that. And so I love that,
wow.
The jacket made such an impression on you.
I think it's wild, because in this expansive show, I think you went to the edge of the universe and back. And listeners, just so you remember, Zora was on episode 10, special 10, way back when, and
10. We got to do the double digit.
It was absolutely fantastic, and everybody's scientifically proven that Zora's sparkle can be seen from outer space in the far reaches. So not just a rumor, but I was so we did the video, which was a feature of your work, your design, cosmically speaking, at a dramatic point, and we had talked about this, a breeze of the perfect miles per hour blew through your hair, capturing the shot. A fun little thing like that. And so trying to make your make your magic. Now, I wanted to drop in and talk about some of the photos you've been doing. And because like I have a list, I think I wrote a list of like 250 things, and we're just gonna like bop a few
Okay.
here. But like, tell me about the spirits, the photography you've been doing. Like, blast me with that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for asking. I am so excited to talk about this. So I have been in love with aura photography for a very long time. I had my first aura photo taken by a really awesome individual who I've had the pleasure of being shot by a couple of times over the years. Her business is Radiant Human. She used to be here in Portland. She's now in New York and continues to do big and beautiful and amazing things. And as someone who, you know, with burlesque, it's really about honoring those who came before you. And her name is Christina Lonsdale. And I, you know, in this universe here together, you and me, like, I'd really love to give a shout out to her because when I first learned about aura photography, I was just like, what is this amazing magic? And then I went and had my photo taken, and it was such this like beautiful little keepsake piece of art thing that I was holding in my hand. And my girlfriend and I went to BC for her birthday in April of this year. And it's just something that I do. I'm always like, every city, big city, right, that I go and visit, I'm always Googling aura photography. Is there an aura photographer in this city? So I found an aura photographer up in Vancouver, and Lindsay had never had one done and really didn't know anything about it. And we went, and it was amazing. And I was there with this, you know, incredible woman. Her business is Hello Aura. And I just said to her, I'm like, girl, you got to get to Portland. I was like, you know, Radiant Human. And she, you know, it's a very small community. I know this now, but I was like, Radiant Human, you know, has left a huge vacancy in the market, and people love this and they're interested in it, and it's very fascinating for folks who are into it, and you should come to Portland. And we kind of had like a brief chat about it, and essentially the punchline was that because of the challenges that folks have crossing the border and doing work, she doesn't ever come here. And I got in the car with Lindsay, and I was like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing this? Like, why am I? And the audacity of the question, and like the audacity of my unknowing in that moment of like, yeah, why the fuck am I not doing this? So I immediately, when we were in the car, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And our 5-hour car ride home is now about finding a business name. Like, we are going to hatch the business name on this drive home from Vancouver. And we went through like a myriad of options, and I kind of did like some small like testing of the business name. And Ken, I will tell you, this whole thing has come about like an absolute miracle. Like, if any of the listeners have ever had an experience where you decide you want to do something and the universe is like, here you go. It was just like one open door, one green light after another. I experienced no challenges. I experienced no resistance. And I learned a tremendous amount. You know, there, as far as I was able to find and understand, there is one company in the entire world that actually makes the Aura cameras. And it is the folks who are, you know, carrying on the legacy of Guy Coggins, who was the original maker of the very first camera. And they are down in Southern California. And I reached out to them. We had some dialogue, and it was, I will say, because I feel like it's just been an important part of like my journey with this whole experience as I launch, that when I decided to do this, my excitement and my sureness over it, there was nothing that was going to stop me. And I'm now like here with the camera and have a website launched and have like started a business, which I know nothing about, right? Like, I mean, I have been mostly an employee my whole life. So when it comes to like, you know, kickstarting all of these little things that you have to do and knowing all the things. So it's been just a really explosive time of learning and growth
Yeah.
and like getting like all those little buttons pushed. And now I'm here with this camera and this great love for aura photos and the opportunity to bring this like really amazing metaphysical kind of like ghosty magic into the hands of folks who want to participate. And it's excellent. It's excellent. And I have an event tomorrow, actually, which I don't know when, but November 5th, I have an event with Ravenswing, which I'm so excited is this beautiful queer witchy shop in Selwood that I feel so lucky that they were interested in this and we're having a collaborative event. And yeah, it just, here it is. And here we are. And aura photography, if you don't know what it is, I'll dive into that real quick.
Please. Yeah, the bit of the
maybe
background.
cart before the horse, right? Definition before all the other stuff.
I do what you do, and then realize, well, we're dropping down into the aura photography, but let's do a little time capsule.
Yeah. So, what I love so immensely about analog aura photography. So in my research, I discovered that there is like digital technology that will do a scan of you and produce like on a computer screen, right? But that is not what we're talking about. So with aura photography, the silver sensors that you place your hands on are connected to the camera, and that sort of magical display of the metaphysical, your aura, the conductivity of the sterling that are literally on these sensor plates and then electrically connected to the camera produce these really wild images. So
Whoa.
an aura, every living being, plants, animals, everyone has an electromagnetic field around them that sort of produces and can vary at different wavelengths and create different colors. There are folks out there in the world who can see the colors that people have around them with their naked eye. And I have done a ton of reading about that as well. I am not one of those people. And I think that it is, I think that they've sort of determined that, the seat of all of that is going to be like up here with our pineal gland, if I'm saying that right. I think it's pineal. I feel like I've heard a couple people say pineal.
That's how I have it in my head, so it's good enough.
But I'm like, pineal doesn't work for me. Pineal does. So the aura, right? We're already sort of crossing into like the woo science, right? We'll hyphenate it. We're crossing into woo science because there is, we scientifically understand that there are wavelengths that move through the air that happen at colors that the human eye can't see. And so not too much of a leap to understand and be enthusiastically bought into the fact that, right, humans carry that same thing. And the aura camera is just a fucking delight, you guys. If you've never seen an aura camera, it literally looks like something from like World's Fair. It has a very kind of steampunk essence to it, I would say. So the camera box itself is really large. I think it's like, 8 or 9 inches wide by like 10 or 11 inches tall by about that deep. Like, so it's this big, massive box that the actual camera sits inside. And then there are these sensor plates. So I wish I would have planned ahead. I could have grabbed one, or if we take a break, I'll grab one. But the sensor plates are these very basic, it's like the shape of an average book, right? It's kind of like this big and about that deep. And there are literal sterling silver small little plates that look like they kind of line up like with the digits of your hand. So there's like a plate here and then a plate here and then a plate here. And you literally place your hands on these sensors. And then the camera does this really amazing long exposure where the first couple of seconds, it's actually capturing you. And then the other sort of like 5 to 8 seconds, it's capturing the colors. And then the camera beeps at me to let me know that it's done its job. And then I release the shutter, and out pops this gorgeous, instant photo that we get to watch develop real time. And all of the colors start to show up. I mean, it is a fucking trip. And it's so funny, even after like building a website and having to write all this copy and having to, help not only literally define what an aura photo is so that folks who have never experienced it before can understand like what it is that they're
you'd want to do that right. You'd want to do it the right way. Yeah.
There's the secondary job of like, helping people who don't know what it is, or who don't know, or who will be eventual clients of aura photography by me or by somebody else. Help them sort of illuminate for them the magic that those of us who are behind the camera feel about what it is to take an aura photo and what it is to like produce an aura photo for someone. I think it is the fucking coolest thing ever. And I love it because I'm also, this is new for me. So I'm in the process of like learning about the colors and just like doing as much understanding as I can, because the colors are associated with the chakras. And so where your color falls in your field means just as much as the color itself. So there is an anatomy to the aura. So when you're looking at an aura photo, actually, hold on one second.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, so this is not a photo that I took, but it's a photo that I have out. This is a photo. Let's see if I can. Oh, the reflections are really bad. But this is a photo of me and Lindsay, and this was taken up in Vancouver. And
yeah,
Lila's here trying to rub her face on it.
This is just. This is too precious. This is just too cute. Okay.
So here's the photo, right? And you can see, like, the reflections are really hard, but you can see that there's some kind of orbs of light here.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then there's all of this stuff happening here in the middle and then in the outer. And,
between you two as well.
And it's hard to tell because Lindsay is wearing a black shirt, but there's a whole lot of like purple and indigo happening over here. And there's like some like red and orange happening. Like they're just wild. They're totally wild. And, I will take 20 pictures in a row and none of them will look the same. But then every now and then I will have folks that maybe do something similar. So this was interesting. I had an event, and I ended up having like one of my best friends was there, and she invited one of her instructors. They both do massage therapy, and their healer auras were remarkably similar. Like the whole night, it was like so much intensity and diversity in the colors and in how the photos looked. And she and her instructor, like both in massage healing arts, right? They both had strikingly similar colors and color placement. And it was like unbelievable. It was so cool to watch. And here's another fun example. I took a photo of my mom and I took a photo of my stepdad, and they had totally different colors, not the same at all. And I took a photo of them together, and more of his colors pulled in their photo than my mom's. And then I took a photo with my mom and the dog, Beatrice. And I took a photo of my stepdad and Beatrice. And the two photos with Beatrice were almost identical. So I was like, can I pull an aura off of a dog? I'm jumping around a little bit.
I'm with you.
One of the things that I would really, really like to do with this is, and I don't have this fully fleshed out yet. Like I know that it's going to be part of this adventure somehow, but I would really like to engage with at least one event or charity every year and just go with the camera like bring joy and bring sparkle. And I love the Oregon Humane Society. I donate to them regularly. Like when it was time to like change out my car, like God bless all those ads on NPR that was like, donate your car. It's like my car fucking died. And I was like, 5 minutes later, I was like, I'm calling the Oregon Humane Society. Like, take my car.
It worked.
Right. So I would really, really love to do an event with the Oregon Humane Society. They don't know this yet. At Oregon Humane Society, if anyone's listening, I would really love to go do an event with them, like either on like a big adoption day push or on like, you know, and take photos of people with their new companions. And if I can pull, right, if I can pull their auras, if I can get enough of their paw on the sensor, what the photos with Beatrice proved to me was that I can get a reading. I can get a reading off of an animal. And what was even fucking crazier was that the photos of my mom and Beatrice and Floyd and Beatrice were literally almost identical. And the colors that were in that field were nowhere in the color field when it was just my mom or just Floyd. So it's like both of those photos pulled Beatrice 100%. And what's even crazier is like when we talk about the colors and their meaning, you know, red, root chakra, right? Like we are grounded. That is the color that is close to the earth. People who pull red tend to be like very physical beings, right? Like they, you know, they'll do a lot physically. They're folks who really like analytical stuff. They like structure. They like organization. They kind of like things to have sort of like a set rhythm. Like people who pull red tend to be like more on the ambitious side, maybe a little more on the type A side, right? And so this is where we start. And I would love to go through all the colors, but we're not going to do that today. Maybe that's a different episode. But by the time you get to the top, right, you get to your third eye and you get to your crown, we're up in like indigo and purple and like these deeper core colors. And the photo of my mom with Beatrice and Floyd with Beatrice were exclusively purple. It was like purple with lavender, with like purple going into indigo. And purple and indigo, while they are next to each other, they do carry some different properties. But as a punchline, it is highly spiritual, meditative, vibrates very closely with nature. Like you, one article that I read said that at some point there was a photo taken of, I think, of a monk. It was somebody who does a very high and dedicated spiritual practice. And they were like purple and white, because white is like at the very top, like white is sort of like this angelic color. I've read a bunch about white and I've heard that it's very, very rare. And so I was like, of course, the sentient dog being is going to pull purple and be like vibrates closely with nature, like, right, like third eye. And it was just really, really fun. And I think I have a really deep appreciation for the inexact nature of the science as sort of maybe frustrating as that may be for some folks who like really want something kind of specific or diagnostic.
Well, the interpretive element to it.
Yeah. And I think that that's really what the beauty is that there is maybe like a set of like a premises or like a set, like an essence, right, of like what goes along with that color. And again, like I'm doing my best to like read and learn, but there's such a range. Like if the color is exactly that color, like right here in this channel, then it's this. But if it's a little bit faded and kind of got more white in it, then it could be more like this. And if it's like murky or muddy or kind of is like not exactly clear or gets a little darker, then it tends to mean the opposite of whatever that color is, right? Like if yellow, for example, is like this very like happy, fun, vibrant, outgoing, like kind of a bubbly color. If there's like a muddy yellow, that can mean like jealousy or frustration or like, right? So within the color, there's also like up here and down here. And so there's the colors, there's just so much to go into. But to circle back around to the original question, an instant an instant photo is happening by the process of you placing your hands on these sensor plates, that energy being literally conducted to the camera with an electrical cord, and then the camera produces. And the camera uses the Fuji Instax film, but in sort of the vernacular, like it's a Polaroid, right? It comes out, it's blank, and then we watch it happen real time, and it's just a fucking marvel. It is just the goddamn coolest thing.
It's a
I think it's super
sensory.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
just such a sensory delight. I tell you, one of the things I was thinking, because I was listening to your description and the colors, and I was definitely thinking, my brain translated it and thinking about like painting and interactivity between colors and space on a canvas. So when you're talking about like this, I'm gonna lead to a question really quickly. When you were talking about like this, maybe melding or amplification of colors, particularly with maybe more than one being, is there any aspect where with your like sensitivity you feel like there's a voyeuristic, like you see like a lot that like a lot all at once, or is it
Yeah.
not work like that?
This is a great question. I think as someone in this adventure and also in my burlesque adventure, that finding that consistent, dependable, and kind of like quick path of keeping grounded within myself, so that the energies that I'm encountering and that the energies that I'm observing, like I personally believe that like things can latch. It's not like I am definitely of that school of thought that like you really kind of have to do like a cleanse. And so I like there are no bad colors in the aura. There's only information. And so I feel like my sort of intention when I'm looking at people's photos and I'm reading them is to help them understand approximately what those colors can mean, and they can find a deeper meaning and definition within that information.
Yeah.
This is not this is not fortune telling. This is not a tarot reading. This is not a psychic experience.
It's like a guide, is a guide or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Like I really think it's my job to distill the information as best as I am able to curate it, and they can really experience what that means and how that is impactful or illuminating for them.
Yeah. Didn't want to skip over, and it's almost like just a practical, like living type of
Yeah.
thing. The point on when you were talking about, and my question probably encapsulated a lot of things, but in the contact with the energies and the transfer and your work as an entertainer,
Yeah.
combined with your sensitivity, and I know we talked a bit about this in the
Yeah.
past, like combined with your sensitivity towards like the coming and going with that. You had mentioned like a way, I don't know, was it like balance or a cleanse, but like
Yeah.
what is it? I'm just saying, like, what is it that you do as a practice? I'm sure there are many things,
Yeah.
but like, how do you deal with that? Because I can recognize that within you. I share some of that quality, exchanging things. Where's me? Where are they?
Yeah.
All that stuff.
That's a great question. I love this question. And it's isn't it wild, right? Because you probably have a thing that you do, and those practices may not look anything like the other. When I'm performing, I think my ritual is actually a very physical one. When I come home, I unpack my bag. I put everything away. Everything gets hung back up. Everything goes back in whatever case, or it's like storage container. The bag gets put back up on the top shelf, like the luggage shelf in the closet. And that is really how I seal off the energy. And when I'm doing the aura photos, it it is, I would say, and I think probably also because I'm new to it, it is really kind of tough to stay grounded because I am so excited about every photo that I see. I'm just like, look at you, look at your gorgeous colors, like, right? And I, because I love it so much and I'm so enthusiastic about it, I have to continue doing a good job of like being the purveyor of enthusiasm, but also, being a little bit more reserved so that that person, gets to have an experience that is independent of like my excitement and my joy for the thing. So that is kind of my first step with aura photography. And then the second thing, is I carry obsidian and clear quartz in my pocket. And those two stones do very different things. And so I just like in the moment, it's like, is this a right pocket or is this a left pocket moment? Which one is it? And I'll just reach in and it's just a very tactile, like I will rub the stone, obsidian is dark black and it is really good to like, if you're having a tough day or you're feeling like there's just a lot going on, like you can put obsidian in the shower, you can put obsidian in the bathtub with you. That it's a really, really great stone for helping wick away like negative energy. So if you end up having an encounter, you're like, wow, like I can't quite describe it, but that I'm just feeling a little off kilter. Or like if I feel like I'm a little bit too much up here and I need to, bring myself down a little bit, I will rub the quartz just for clarity and cleansing and grounding. And whether it real or placebo, it doesn't really matter. I have found a process through the tactile rubbing of these like very differently shaped stones that just zips it up
Grounding
for me
it, and I think what we're talking about is like grounding ritual or more than that. It doesn't matter because it's a combination of those type of things to.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for dropping into that. And it isn't just because up where we are in the Pacific Northwest, it's turned very rainy, very gray. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's not just because we're recording here on the weekend, but it gets rainy and gray. And I'm like, well, the color, I'm having you on here for the
Right.
for the color. And
well, you got it. Here we are in all the colors.
I was just about to talk about your hair, and lovely purple. You keep saying indigo. It keeps coming up in the as a color. And what you mentioned, I've seen a lot of people with like that nice color. One of the really cool things, and thank you first of all, Zora, for like dropping into like catching me up on the spirit photography, the aura photography, because just for me, I've bumped into it like in a historical sense. I would look at those type of things historically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from New England. I'd be in old
yeah.
bookstores and see
Yeah. Oh God,
old timey type. Like, so I got that feel for it, but it was great to see you drop in the way that you drop in. And I know what you're minding me, because I don't know where you're doing the patents or doing beautiful burlesque dancing, or what you do with some of these hours and those hours. You can do a lot of as an athlete. We've talked about that, but it's just really great to see you like in that creative mode and like learning and dropping into this. And listeners will share a bunch of images and a little bit of things to catch you up with Zora. So hey, you got some things to throw out at us, Zora, like what you thinking, like where you appear in the universe, where this photo opportunity, like all that type of stuff, because the world's moving quickly now. We haven't talked in a while, so like tell us the things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I have this really beautiful event happening tomorrow with Raven's Wing. I'm so excited about that. I've got a couple things brewing for the new year. I'm really excited. I might be part of this really lovely event that kind of falls around Valentine's, which kind of parlays into, doesn't answer the question in a slight tangent, but for anyone who's watching, the photo that I showed earlier is a photo of me and my girlfriend. And I've already sort of referenced it before, like, aura photography can accommodate sort of technically up to two, say, beings. And so the idea of like having like kind of like a Valentine's adjacent event would be really lovely, because I love taking duo photos. Family members, friends, lovers, besties, like whatever it is, getting to people in the tent at the same time is really a fucking marvel, because you get to sort of watch these colors meld. So I'm hoping to be doing more events that are like that, where there are folks who will come in ones and twos and engage in that way. I am still setting up possibly one or two more events this year, including an event that might be happening on New Year's. But it's a show that I'm already performing at, and I don't know, like, I know that my bandwidth is pretty solid, but to set up the tent, which maybe we can get into that next. So I'll sort of pause here and say what's really, I think, intriguing and like comically entertaining is that aura photography actually requires mostly darkness, right? Like most photography, it's just like the tents and the lights and the things. And it's like, get the lighting just right. And like, don't go take a photo on a bright sunny day. It's actually better when it's overcast. It's always about the lighting. And aura photography is still about the lighting, but it's just, I think it's this really fascinating and kind of like cheeky aspect of aura photography is that it's got to be mostly in the dark. So I have built this gorgeous tent that it was by far like the biggest sewing project I've ever done. And
which is saying something. Which is saying something. I know that.
Did I learn so much? Oh my God. Ken, I swear to God, it was like the homegrown version of sitting with like the IKEA instructions.
Oh no.
Where you're like, that doesn't look like the right time to do that step.
No.
I'm just going to do that later. And then you get to later and you're like, oh,
you're describing my kryptonite. Like, just so you know about me, like everything you're saying about like sequence and detail over 1 billion hours. Yeah. Bless you from the bottom of my heart. You are describing. Yeah.
So yes. So the tent is just, it's very cool. It's round. It's like shaped kind of like a pill. If you look at it in plan view, it is 4 feet wide by 8 feet long, and it's about 7 feet tall to the crown, not to the peak. And I have stitched together this fabric because I had a really exacting vision of like the colors of the tent and how that was going to tie in with some of my branding. And so it's funny. I can't seem to stay on the topic of when is your next event. It's like,
no. But the problem is too, with our combination, I'm following the tent and what it looks like right now, because now
thank you for being along for the ride.
my brain starts to move towards like something wicked this way. I'm moving along with you and whatever.
Yeah. Okay, great. I haven't lost you. So, the tent is meant to travel with me and with the camera so that I can basically go anywhere I need to and it set this tent up in any environment because it's a blackout tent. So I can gain the environment that I need in terms of color, lighting, all that stuff, right? The color being black. You have to be doing these photos on a black backdrop, and lighting, I can control the lighting if I'm in, a blackout tent. And so it's sort of an interesting balance of folks that I'm talking to that want to share space, that want to collaborate, that want to have an event, and deciding, can the tent fit is there somewhere for the tent to go? And if not, what alternative spaces might you have where this can still be successful? And so I've got those two setups, and right now it's just an interesting sort of hybrid of working with folks on the footprint of the tent, which was intentionally designed to be minimal. Like when I set up the tent, in the tent with me is the camera, obviously on a tripod, and then the bench where my clients,
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really cool.
guests
Yeah.
sit. So it was also to kind of really back up. Part of this whole like launching this business was also like designing this tent, which is fun because, you know, I've got a small background in that. And so designing something that met the call of it's lightweight. I can assemble it completely by myself without help. And it has to be small enough to transport in the back of my car. So it was like, and so I designed this really awesome thing. My friend Adam made it for me. And it is spectacular. And so now as I'm engaging with folks who want to have events, who want to collaborate, it is, does the tent come with me? Does the tent not come with me? And if it doesn't, like, then what sort of opportunities are there to set up in your space? And Raven's Wing is a great example. So the tent would not fit in their retail environment, right? Why would a massive 4x8x7, piece of furniture just magically drop in? So they have a tarot reading room, and that's where I will be. I'm going to hang a black sheet on the back wall, and we're going to do our best to black out the space.
Go on, riff a bit on things that you have coming up or things that you're working on. And
okay, so yeah, coming up, I'm really excited to be a part of the annual soiree that happens at the Alberta Rose Theatre. A really incredible friend and musician and performer sort of collaboratively puts on this show with Izani, which, a little background, Johnny and Isaiah are both local to Portland, burlesque performers, entertainers, fire performers.
yes,
you name it.
amazing.
Yes, collectively they are Izani, and they co-produce this show with Pink Lady, Lindsay Deanne, and they basically put on a smash of a show every New Year's, and it is such a sense of home and family and camaraderie, and it is one of my favorite events all year, just because I think the sentiment and maybe the nostalgia of what it is to be together on that while the year changes over. And also, burlesque is really vibrant and thriving in Portland. And for those of us who have been doing it for a really long time, I think I'm coming up on like year 15 or 16. When we started, there wasn't a whole lot. And so there's some OG performers that tend to pop up every year at this event. So it's really just like being in a room with folks that I've been doing this with for the better part of 2 decades. And it is whenever I'm hosting or emceeing a show, I usually have like a small statement about like whatever that thing is that you really love with those people that you really identify with, like go find that thing, because it doesn't matter how many years I've been doing burlesque. That feeling is still so potent and still so acutely with me after every show of like, God, I'm so fucking lucky to be able to do this. Like I'm so lucky to know all of these wonderful, sparkly people, and we do this thing, that we all love. And, burlesque is an entertainment industry like any other, and it's self-propelled. Like the people who are in it have to love it, have to want to be there, because if burlesque just magically stopped tomorrow, it's not like, I mean, maybe some diehard fans, but it's not like the world would come knocking and be like, whatever happened to burlesque, right? So there is this motivation and this dedication and this really I think like pure joy for what burlesque as an output and like as a performance is, that keeps people coming back. And so to be in, to be in a room and on a stage with folks that have been doing it for so long, that I formed these like really wonderful friendships with, there's nothing quite like that. And so that is what I have coming up next, is New Year's. And I do actually, I think now that I'm reflecting mentally on my calendar, I do have one show before then. It is with Diva Drag Brunch, which is an incredible production run by Justin Buckles. And I feel very lucky to be part of the Diva Drag Brunch family. I'm going to be performing in Portland at Swan Dive, at Diva Drag Brunch. I think the show usually starts around noon, and I can send you all those details on like where to find me next. But yeah, that's sort of what I've got coming up through the end of the year. And it's so lovely. It's so lovely. I
Well,
feel so lucky to be part of it.
well, I wanted to just take a moment to
Mhm.
Zora, just to pause and just mention a couple things where I don't know, sometimes it might be just kind of like quickly passed by, and I just wanted to really thank you because um to be able to talk with you when I have, and you worked with me in doing a video that was, dedicated to you, which
Yeah.
is wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's aspects where there's a certain type of freedom and comfort in expression where
Mm,
that space really helps me. I just want to give you an
mm,
example, right? So
mm.
I'm 51. Yeah, we can each talk about our experience, but I can tell you when it comes to heteronormative, very strict ways of viewing the world, it's a bizarro thing that I grew up with and lived around a lot
Yeah.
of my life, and I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of great opening. Like, but I'll tell
Mm,
you one thing where I want to say that you're important and just like kind of just understanding things. So I was
yeah.
like 19 or 20, and again, that was the environment I was around.
Yeah.
I was in the village, right? So I was in Greenwich Village running around. I was from Rhode Island, and
Oh,
I'm like,
fun.
hey, I'm in the village, and I'm a wild guy, always been, but
Yes. Fuck yes.
but I'm also like a early '90s, male, maybe rough edges and stuff. But
Sure.
and so I go there. I never been to them. I'm like, hey, I'm in the village and all this stuff, and immediately I understood everything. Like at that point, I was like, a lot of this stuff we're playing is a hoax. This is fun. Oh, I'm attractive to this man who looks like oh my god, because it's makeup, and like it just messed with my head, and I wasn't
Yeah.
freaked out about it or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just like, this is cool. And I just want to say that, like, seeing films and Glitter Tribe and working with you, and just that you're just an outstanding performer. I mean, just like lovely in the
Thank you.
things that you make. It helps. It helps.
Yeah.
It helps in. There's something about Portland with all its sins, all its faults, that has this freedom that I don't see anywhere else, which has
Yeah.
just helped me to understand the world and people just being who they are. So I want to thank
Yeah.
you for your part in
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
So
I resonate very much with what you've said, because I think that and I think we talked about this maybe in our last interview, because it's impossible for me to not talk about this when I examine sort of what burlesque has been and become for me. A lot of things that we do in our lives, we do them because there's an interest or an intrigue, or like we kind of go that way. And it's this output of, right, like our time and our interest flowing to that thing. But when you can hit that like right pitch, when you can find that like really unique and beautiful turn, where the thing that you're giving so much to like doubles back, and now you're getting so much from it. And that's what I feel about burlesque. Like when I started doing burlesque, and I'm going to just, risk saying, as I'm starting to do aura photography, like I can reflect on how there is a lot of effort and output time, financial, emotional, right, that goes into making the dream happen. And then you arrive to this place where you've got a rhythm, right? There is a certain effort when you're starting. There is a certain effort when things are growing and beginning, and then you can kind of plateau where you can enjoy the operation and the function that you've set up.
Yeah.
And so having that feedback of like burlesque being this like beautiful, rich, dynamic thing that I just like get to go be a part of, right? Like, it's like, yeah, I do burlesque, but like, it's interesting how, like, as I'm saying this, like, I can appreciate that, like, my view of burlesque is that it's like this energetic entity that like I'm fortunate enough to get to tap into. Because what I get, like, it's not this like static one direction. Like, I make the costume, I mix the music, I book the show, I do the performance. It's like, no, it's this whole other thing. And that's what I can imagine or a photography is probably going to be eventually. Because the thing that I really love, and this is a very personal statement, is that burlesque is the one thing that I choose in my life 100% from like desire and excitement, right? I choose to like do dishes because there's an obligation and there's a duty.
Some different ratio.
I choose to go to my job every day because, right, like I do like what I do and I have to make a living, but like, you're right, we all work out of duty and obligation. And so to find a channel in your life that you get to do 100%, I'm choosing this from like desire and from joy and from enthusiasm is fucking wild. Because when you stop to think, it's maybe a little bit like disconcerting, how much of your life you actually do from like genuine, enthusiastic, like choice. I don't think it's very much. There's a whole lot that we have to do to survive and to maintain. And yeah, like the spectrum of choice has to be acknowledged. It's like choosing from obligation and from duty all the way down here to like choosing from joy and enthusiasm. And so to circle back to the thing that is impossible for me to not talk about whenever I talk about burlesque, and that is when there was a very specific show that I went to, and performing that night were many of the people who I see every year at that New Year's show. And I saw those folks performing and I was like, that's it. That's fucking it. That's it right there. And this thing, because I'd been performing burlesque a little bit at that point. Like I'd been doing it. I hadn't quite found my rhythm. I just hadn't found my groove. And I went and I saw that show and I was like, this was the nebulous, ill-defined, without edges idea that's been just like sitting on the back of my brain, just like kicking its legs, waiting to create enough of a breeze for me to look its way. And I just was like, and it's the same thing as when I was like, my life purpose is to sparkle. It was like the words flew out of my mouth and then like just this amazing sense just like washed over me. It was like, oh, and like I cried a little bit after I said that out loud because I was like, wow, it feels so good to just speak the truth, which is usually pretty simple. And in that moment, I was like, this is what I want to be doing. And like, I went and found the producer of that show and, you know, they were going to be like handing the reins off to somebody else. And so I was like, you then introduce me to whoever's going to be taking over because I'm about to be a part of this. And
damn, go,
you know, and like, that was like, what, like 2009, maybe? It was fucking ancient. It was so long ago. And that is the moment, right? That is the moment that we, I think, get to have in this life if we're attuned and if we're listening and if we're willing, right? Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fucking work. It's a lot of closet space. It's a lot of time. And, you know, there are definitely parts of like the arrival, the invitation to go and do these really fun, wild things that you could be doing with your life, like in your free time. And that is the thing that it's just like, when you find that thing, when you find that group of people, just fucking run at it with everything you have, because it will eventually feed you. I can't believe the lessons and the growth that I have like been so fortunate to come into because of my dedication to burlesque, because of my dedication to like the craft and the art and like what I really, really love to be doing. And it has taught me so much. It's not just me going and doing this thing. It's like, it is a full, complete, robust feedback loop.
All hail Queen Zora.
Yeah.
I love it. Before I let you go, and the only reason I'll let you go is because you are busy, and this iteration of you we've captured on audio. But I want to tell you something because I think it's important. We met by this combination of botanical burlesque, which is an idea. When I ran into it, I didn't know, but I know I love the plants and flora, and I know I love burlesque. And I saw a photo of you, and I said, I know I really like her too. And so it drew me all there. But here's a really, really cool thing. I talk about on the show a little bit. One of my favorite podcasts over the last few months is called Rooted Pod, and it's this deep dive in 10 to 50 minutes increments by M. Grebner Gaddis, who is a plant geek extraordinaire, and just 10 to 15 minutes into history, lore, Shakespeare, movies, what the plant is.
I'm going to message you after this because I want that name again. Okay.
Yeah, I will give that all to you. But one of the things that really just clicked into my head is just, it is so cool to see the plants around you. And for me, here's the thing. It comes from me is my mama raised me around plants, and it gets gray, and but like there's this old wisdom put in living, growing green things. And thank you for making me feel more alive by both your plants and, of course, your spirit.
You know what? While we're on it, I'm going to pull something onto frame, which is so much fun. So I'm going to have to go back. So I went and bought this massive glass vase.
Wow.
And I've put an orchid and some ground cover in there. And there's a little bit of condensation happening right now, but you can see like the orchid leaves. This thing has bloomed twice in the last year. And I will tell you, for any orchid fans, I am in no way, right? It just, orchids are like, I love them and they're gorgeous, but
me too. I can't keep them going.
No, we do not live in the geographical jackpot to grow orchids without like a setup and a lot of dedication. Like, it's got to have a misting system. It's got to have condensation and humidity. And that is what the cool thing is about that little terrarium that I made, is that this orchid is going bonkers because I water it twice a year, and then it just has its own little ecosystem going inside there, and it has bloomed twice. And I made another one. There's another one right behind me.
Yeah, this is all too much.
It's like right there. You can see there's a bunch of ground cover in there, but there's an orchid baby at the bottom. They're all
you are a wild woman with these plants. I mean, they're just beautiful and flourishing. My goodness. Yeah. Having fun, huh?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm going to get you because of what you told me about what's going on back behind you. I'm very happy to release you and for you to jump into the things that I know are going on back behind you, and to move to your next thing. I'll send you a couple messages. Don't worry about anything here. I'll take care of everything.
Okay. Awesome. Ken, it's so great to chat with you again. This was so fun. How does 60 minutes like evaporate like that? I feel like you and I need to have like a 5-hour.
That's
we need to
the
have
thing.
like a 5-hour.
I just pressed.
Yeah.
We just press pause.
I love it. That's right.
Love you so, Zora.
Awesome. Ken, thank you for everything. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
Bye.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind-the-scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast.